Anyway, joining us at the table and who had my back is Anna Lauren Jacobs. Welcome to the table.
Thank you so much for having me.
She is here with Refuge for Women, and I am so glad that you are here right now because January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And the Refuge for Women provides long-term care for women who have escaped human trafficking or sexual exploitation. So you all are doing amazing, amazing work.
Thank you.
Often people think of human trafficking as just kidnapping because that's what Hollywood shows us, right? But human trafficking has so many other faces. So what else does it look like?
Yeah, so I think the first misconception is that it's like always international. It does happen internationally, but it also happens domestically. It happens right here in Lexington. I mean, we're reaching out to almost 400 women who are advertised for purchase within 10 miles of Lexington. And so it's a problem right here. But it's not the stranger on the street kidnapping people. A lot of times there's a familial element. A lot of times there's an older boyfriend, somebody that kind of gets you into a life. And then they use things like criminality or prostitution or fear of retribution from law enforcement to keep people from seeking help. So it's really a vicious cycle, and we do a lot of damage by pretending that it only happens when a car pulls up on the side of the road. That's absolutely a way it can happen. But these other things, you know, if you're educating your daughters or educating your sons, you don't need to present this one picture. You need to say like, hey, watch out for sketchy guys. Like, you know, make sure that, you know, bring your boyfriends home for dinner, like as awkward as it might be. Like, make sure that people in your life are seeing all of your life.
Yes, very good.
Interesting. So tell us how Refuge for Women helps the survivors of human trafficking.
Yeah, so another Hollywood portrayal could be really detrimental of just like this grand elaborate rescue, but then not what comes after. So obviously there's so much trauma, so much pain that comes along with being exploited in this way.
Right.
The commercial sex industry is horrific. But at Refuge for Women, we actually provide aftercare for survivors of commercial sexual exploitation. And so all of that is going to look different as we develop an individualized care plan for each woman. But essentially, we walk women through emergency housing, which is safety, stabilization, make an informed decision about how you want this to play out. And then move into a long-term care plan, which is that deep healing work. It's saying like, be with other women who've experienced this, like be able to get counseling, to journal, to walk, to learn how to process, and then start to picture what your life can look like after. And then transitional living, which in Kentucky, we just actually opened a 24-unit free to flourish apartment complex for transitional living, which we're so excited about. We got to move 4 women in yesterday. It was actually amazing.
So yeah, tell us more about one of your success stories, please.
Yeah, and so transitional living is where you really kind of see it come together. And so, you know, just out of residence, we have had custody battles won and jobs attained, college degrees, all of these kind of things. And so it's like actually the coolest seat in the world, right? To get to see the theory and the policy and the statistics on the awareness side, but also to see like, okay, actually because it's in our community can make a difference to stop it. Can make a difference to help the survivors.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I think it's really important because it is happening in our backyards.
Absolutely.
What can we do to try to help ourselves recognize it? What can we do about that?
Yeah, so there are like some pretty clear signs. Women who will not be alone from a male or just like another group of women, people who won't meet your eyes. A lot of public places, I think people think trafficking happens in the shadows, but they have to get places somehow. They use public transit, they're in airports, bus stations, all the rest of the stuff. And so just noticing things that seem off. We're pretty good as women especially at like saying, hey, that doesn't seem quite right. Like maybe think about that. But there's also amazing trainings from an organization called I Am On Watch that you can watch online that are great things. And then also like the very simple thing of putting the human trafficking hotline number in your phone. Having that. And so the number is 888-373-7888.
Which is pretty simple to,
easy to remember. And there's also a text number. And so there are like a ton of ways that we can actually be involved in this. And another way is learning just through, there's several organizations in the Lexington area that work with survivors. And so saying like, hey, let me volunteer. because then you kind of hear the stories of what it actually looks like, and then you're actually more prepared to recognize
That
it.
makes sense.
Well, Anna Lauren, unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I could talk to you for goodness. This is so interesting.
Days.
We're definitely going to have you back. Really, really quickly, tell us your website so people can learn more.
Yeah, our website is refugeforwomenkentucky.org, and our social media is Refuge for Women Kentucky on both Facebook and Instagram.
All right,
right.
awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Yeah,
being
thank you
here.
so much for having me.
We appreciate